curves. You want to make sure that you get the pressure point right. That's where it's tightest, and steer through that section. In the flat spots, let it run. In other words, don't touch the steering.
As you can see from this pilot's point of view, there's no time to think. You've got to know this course.
Well, certainly, and if you make any mistakes, you're going to see the sleds going up and down, more distance, losing time.
The final turns, of course, will tell the tale. As you can see, it's open jacket weather in Altenberg. So mild, and that will be a factor. Who chose the right runners today may indeed decide the outcome as much as good driving. As we go back to the top of this course, this is Reto Gocci of Switzerland 2, was fourth after the first two heats of day one. He was second overall on the World Cup circuit in two-man competition. He knows what he's doing.
Well, the big challenge is right from the start. Yesterday, 5:36 in the second heat, and they definitely have to improve on that.
Good start.
5:23, that's great. You know, nice, clean load. He was an experienced pilot last year, second in the World Cup here, so he knows the course. He's really got to stay focused.
Gocci had 2 gold medals, a silver and a bronze, on a great 99-2000 World Cup season. And look at that time, a second .89 lead.
Boy, it's amazing the time difference between some of these sleds. I mean, it's incredible. Usually the difference is only hundreds. Here we're seeing a full 2 seconds.
So as we get to the cream of the crop here, the upper seeds, you can see just how much better they are than the bottom half of competition. 2 seconds now.
Boy, and you can still see how tough this course is. You know, the transitions, the banging and the counter walls. You really want to clean that up so that you're not losing that time. And as well, you can keep a good rein on your ropes. When you start to bang like that, things are shifting around.
What a great third run for Reto Gocci of Switzerland. His coaches approve. A full 2-second lead now on the rest of the field. And oh, some trouble at the end.
Oh, geez. You know, the worst thing there is you just trash your runners.
No kidding.
Well, he's not pleased about that, but boy, that can be really damaging.
There's the ghost image halfway down, and you can see how well Gocci was driving. A huge lead.
And right away he got onto it. He's still letting it come up and down a bit. You know, you've got to smooth that out, but still, when you've got that lead, you got stuff to play with. But that really hurts your equipment.
That could be terribly damaging, not just to the equipment, but to Gocci's hopes, as he knows. The brakeman obviously didn't get on the brakes fast enough, and he went right into the asphalt.
Well, the problem is your braking stretch gets chewed up this warm weather. That's one of the things that happens, so there's no gripping and you can't stop the sled in time.
Christoph Langen, of course, had a disastrous second run. The 3-time world champion forfeiting the World Cup circuit, not racing on the last 2 events to come here and train. Let's see if he can come back on day 2.
Well, he's definitely got the experience, but he's got to get right on it at the start here. And a 5:17, that's the best we've seen. I mean, right away he's laying it down. He's got to have a nice, clean run here. He's way behind Long and tough to make it up on any course.
Langen in deep after the first 2 heats. He was down nearly half a second to his fellow countryman, Andre Long. But now he's looking very quick and smooth.
Well, he's definitely got a whole bunch of time he's making up on Gocci here, but you know, to make up, to catch up, he's really got to stay focused, got to keep his ropes in. When he gets into those long curves, he's got to make sure he gets on it right away and doesn't let the sled climb too high, lose time there in speed, and he's doing a good job here. He's certainly picking up more time. That's great.
He's got a big hole, though, to dig out of. 2 heats to gain a half a second on Lang. He'll chip away at it here in the 3rd heat.
Look at the nice position he is. He's got his head just over the cowling, looking for it.
And a good 3rd run. That's more like it for Christoph Langen. A bump on the final turn, but they get that sled stopped in time to save those priceless runners. And there you see the slap on the back of the head from Marcus Zimmermann, his brakeman, taking over from Thomas Platzer here at the World Championships.
Well, certainly you've got to bring your best guys out on these games, and you know, they're definitely prepared for it. Here you see that transition. He's coming across that counter wall. A little tweak with his runners, though, and he straightens it out. That's what you've got to do instead of laying up against the other side.
Well, he plowed into that wall in heat 2.
Now you see, look at his line. It's a little bit higher than Gocci's, but now he's smoothed it out a bit. And look at Gocci going up and down. That's what you don't want. You want to follow Langen's path all the way around. Maybe a little lower, but still he's nice and smooth and clean.
So Christoph Langen of Germany, the pole sitter right now in first place after his 3rd heat of this 2-man competition of the World Championships. Looking a lot more confident, reserved, and happy than he was after heat 2. Those are the runners that won Olympic gold. For Canada 1's Pierre Lueders in Nagano, as they're set into the starting tracks, he'll have young Ahmed Marshall subbing for Ken LeBlanc.
Well, pushing Pierre Lueders in Canada 1's a lot of pressure. He demands a lot, and I demand a lot of myself. We're always in the winner's circle, and you want to stay consistently there. So it's just a lot of pressure for me as a first-year brakeman.
Huge pressure indeed. Ken LeBlanc with a knee injury that will keep him out of action, and so young Marshall will try to give Lueders the push he needs.
Well, certainly we talk about the power that Ken LeBlanc had. Ahmed doesn't have that power, but he does have the turnover, and that's what he's got to give him.
Oh no, they're in third place with a 5:31.
Well, boy, when Longen has that much time on you with that 5:17 start, you can't give up that, especially on this course.
It's often said that a tenth of a second at the top translates to 3/10 at the bottom. Let's see how Lueders will drive his way out of that start.
Well, he's a second behind Longen, but let's see if he can't look for other positions on here. Pierre's got a lot of experience here. He's the type of driver that can handle this course. Here he's starting to make a series of mistakes, though. You don't want to be banging those counter walls. You don't want to be going up and down in the curves. Shortest line through a curve, that's the one that'll give you more speed.
Well, he's losing time now, 1.28 seconds behind Christoph Langen of Germany. This is Pierre Lueders of Canada 1, still slowing at 1:42.
Well, down in this lower section, though, he's got good control on the sled now, staying nice and focused and certain reeling it in, but it's a very difficult course.
Now Ivo Ferriani, the Canadian coach, not happy as Marshall struggles to stop that Canadian sled.
What the hell are you doing? Come on. Jesus. Wake up.
Pierre Lueders furious with Ahmed Marshall.
Go back to sleep.
Oh my goodness, showing disdain for the young Canadian brakeman as he let Lueders' Olympic champion runners go right into the asphalt.
Well, here we see him a little higher up the course before they got into trouble, but Pierre's well behind at this point, but he's got a nice, clean line. In other words, he's not up and down. He's holding the sled right in a nice, smooth line. That helps you.
I appreciate that. It's only 40 grand. You can pay for it.
Oh my goodness, so there's some internal dissension as Lueders continues to berate Ahmed Marshall. Back to the top, Italy won Gunther Huber, the co-Olympic champion in the two-man competition in 1998 at the Nagano Olympic Winter Games.
Well, there's no doubt a lot of people feel that if Huber had that competitive start, not a 5:32, but something in the 5:20s or even 5-teens, that he would be the guy that would be on the podium every time. But with that kind of start, he's challenged. But he's a great driver. He's very relaxed, very focused in the sled. He understands his equipment, and he's got nice driving skill. In other words, he's the type of guy that can make those transitions from nice smooth curves to the very tight, hard curves where you got to pull it on, pull it off.
Huber, 9th overall in the two-man competition on the World Cup circuit this year, struggling with pneumonia at the start of the season, trying to salvage his year now here at the World Championships.
Well, definitely he's one of those guys that's everything bad has happened to him in the year, but here he is at the end. He's in contention, and he's got a nice run going, 1.2 seconds behind, but that's behind Long, and he's still got a chance for third.
At the finish, he will be in third place, well off the German pace of Christoph Langen, but still pretty strong.
Well, at least they got their sled stopped. I mean, that's going to be the challenge for a lot of these teams. It is so unfortunate what happened to Pierre there. I mean, they've really got to go back and refocus and hope they haven't trashed those runners like Pierre thinks they have. Here we see that counter wall. Huber, so experienced, just gives a little tweak so it doesn't smash into that counter wall. And then here we see that shadowing. He is behind, but he's got that nice line, and that, he's letting it run in the flat spots. In other words, he's not steering. When he gets to the pressure point, he's holding the sled down with the lower runner.
Home ice still an advantage for the Germans as they have the lead in Heat 3.
Navigation systems down, Captain.
Where anybody in this crowd who was within earshot of the Canadians still buzzing over that confrontation. This sport adhering to strict technical standards, and here are the sled regulations.
Well, certainly you've got the length that's important, the width, as well as the weight, and that's with the crew.
A little more than 800 pounds to total capacity. As you see, each sled must be carefully measured before it goes into competition. This is the FIBT jury. They make sure that the starts are clean. Of course, there are more officials at the bottom waiting to measure the winning sleds to make sure they fall within regulations. Heat 3 continuing here at the World Championships, and this is one of the prohibitive favorites. From Switzerland 1, Christian Reich, the World Cup two-man champion, sitting in third place right now.
Well, yesterday at a 5:30 start, we've seen some of those sleds improve today. Let's see if he can get under that.
The time after 50 meters, second best. 2100ths though behind Christoph Langen.
Well, certainly that's the challenge. I mean, he's got to hope he can reel Langen in. Langen had that great third heat. He had trouble yesterday in the second. We've got to hope that Christian Reich can just relax and just ensure that he doesn't make any huge mistakes. Otherwise, he's going to drop some places.
Reich, one of the most versatile drivers on the circuit, with 3 gold medals and 2 silvers in two-man competition to go with a gold in the 4-man.
Well, he's had a great year. Here we start to see a mistake, though. You know, he didn't take control of that sled when it got into the curve. Right away when it gets on, you've got to take lower runner pressure. It means you've got to hold the rope down so the sled doesn't climb. And again, he did that same thing, you know. You've got to make sure the sled doesn't climb up, otherwise you're going to lose speed, and you're covering more ground, and that will cost you in time.
Reich wavering on those high walls, still in second place, but losing time at the finish, 45/100ths of a second behind Christoph Langen. Andre Long, the leader after 2 heats, still to come, though, in this competition.
Well, at least he's made maybe the most difficult part in this course. They've stopped their sled before they've taken out all those standards or even run right off it.
Well, we've seen both Gucci and Luters have problems running off the end of this course.
Look at how this transition just throws them up and over. Boy, that's a really hard way to get off the curve.
Fishtailing there, bumping twice on the wall. Here's the image, the ghost image that shows how close he was to Christoph Langen, about a sled behind, halfway down.
But see how he's going up and down? He's covering more ground. He's got to take control of that sled and make sure it follows a straight path all the way around.
Todd Hayes of United States, number 1, was in 9th place after 2 heats. Relative newcomer at this level, 14th overall in two-man competition on the World Cup circuit.
He's used to having great starts, certainly in the dryland training, but on the ice it's hard to take it through, and here's a 5.25. Todd's only problem is experience. He's a good, strong, pushing pilot. He's a very tough guy, but he's just got to get more experience on these courses. That's the unfortunate thing about the North Americans, is they don't get time training on these European courses often enough.
And this American sled, a little flatter profile than many of the others, of course incorporating some of Jeff Bodine's NASCAR experience in the design.
Well, I think the only thing they need to fill in the blank is the runner technology. We've talked about how important that is all year long. They definitely got the sled configuration they're comfortable with. They're steering, now it's the runners.
Well, yes, witness that. He's dropped now to 6th place and really high on that turn.
Boy, I'll tell you, a couple more feet and he'd be right through the lip of that curve.
Dangerous looking curve for Todd Hayes of USA 1. And 6th place, 1.77 seconds.
Well, he jumped on the brakes. I mean, that's one good thing, or at least they're going to get their sled stopped in time, but that braking stretch is so chewed up, and we've seen other less experienced and even more experienced brakemen not get the sled stopped in time. That's going to be an important discussion back up at the top for that 4th heat when it comes up.
Let's look at that one dangerous turn.
Boy, he just, you know, when the sled comes out of the straightaway and starts to make its way onto the curve, you got to make sure you get lower runner pressure right away and hold it down. Otherwise, you're going to cover way too much distance. Fact is, without that lip, and if he hadn't got on it soon enough, he'd have blown right through the top.
That's how far he was behind the current leader, Christoph Langen of Germany, midway through the track.
And again, you see him just wavering a little bit. Good head position. That's not bad at that point.
Back to the start hut as the Italians, Fabrizio Tossini and his teammate, Marco Mancini, get set for their 3rd heat. Psyching each other up. Explosive starts the key in this sport.
Well, in the background there is Meinhard Nehmer, world and Olympic champion from the East German program. He's been working with the Italians for a couple of years, trying to give him the experience that he brought when he was sliding. But boy, at the start, this is what hurts Tossini, along with Gunther Huber. They just don't get off there quick enough. And a 5:36, I mean, he's already giving up almost 2 tenths to Langen. If you want to be in the medals, you definitely have to have much faster starts.
The Italians looking like Clydesdales coming out of that start. Tossini, 5th overall on the World Cup two-man circuit this year. A good year for him, the 30-year-old from Parma, Italy.
Well, he's definitely getting experience from year to year, and he's going to have to get a little bit more if he's ever going to replace Huber on the circuit. But
a fishtail.
And that's the kind of mistake you don't want to make. I mean, when you've got the sled going sideways, you're just planing off the time, and then the next curve, you're up and down. He's lost his concentration.
Tossini of Italy careening through this track, and it's costing him time.
And here again, you know, you've got, as soon as it gets on the curve, you've got to take control of it. You can't let it climb up like that.
Dropping to 7th place at the finish. 2 seconds off the lead of Christoph Langen, and 7th overall in the 3rd heat. The Italian coaching staff not too pleased with that driving performance of Fabrizio Tossini of Italy.
Boy, that's difficult. You know, he made some very tough mistakes there, and those are definitely the ones that are going to hurt his time. Here you see him coming across. It hits the counter wall, and then the back end starts to slide. You know, at that point, he'd want to take control with the runners and try and tweak it really quick. In other words, pulling on his left hand really fast to try and take it over. And here you see him on the next curve. He gets up, he does get control of it, and then follows it around, but unfortunately, he's lost time and down that straightaway. He's just going to fall further back.
Losing the slingshot out of that turn, and it was costly for Fabrizio Tossini. This is Andre Long of Germany 2, the leader after the first 2 heats, looking so composed for the 26-year-old former world junior champion. He said, the target's on my back after heat 2, knowing that the 3-time champion from Germany, Christoph Langen, will be gunning for him. Here goes Andre Lang.
Well, he had a 5:28 in his second run yesterday, which wasn't a good time. We've seen some fast.
5:18.
Wow, this is great. He's only 100th behind Langen at this point, so he's starting to show some real poise here.
He had a lead of 49/100ths of a second over Langen after heat 2. All he has to do is keep driving the way he did on day 1.
Boy, nice and smooth up at the top here. He's got to just let the sled run in those flat curves, and on the real tight ones, you know, take control like we say and keep it nice and low. Here you see him in the straightaway, though. He's making little tweaking, you know, little adjustments to keep it in that nice, clean center line down the straightaways.
Right now, he has the lead. Tremendous championship pedigree for this German. The 98 world junior champion in 2-man, the 99 junior champion in 4-man, and here he is looking for a 3rd straight championship as a senior in this 2-man competition. He's still got the lead.
And he's starting to lose some time, though. He was 1600ths ahead, then a 10th. We'll see that the next time. Oh, he's only 200ths ahead, so wow, did he ever lose time?
Andre Long squandering 47/100ths of a second in the 3rd run. Now his lead has virtually evaporated on Langen.
Well, I tell you, that's one of the challenges you got. You know, when Langen was such experience, he made that mistake 2nd run yesterday. He came out and laid down a great 3rd one, and now Long, I mean, he's just blown it. Now they're going to see where he made the mistakes, you know, looking at interval times.
Back to the start, which was tremendous.
It certainly was. I mean, this is one of the things that you got to do is come out and lay it down. You know, you see that tear in the back of his brakeman's suit. I mean, that happens from the 4-man, you know, when you're loading and the other guys get in behind you and they get snagged up. Those start shoes, all those spikes in there just dig into you and rip you. And, you know, they probably have they've got a lot of sleds in storage, but they don't have any more racing suits.
A few scars in that 4-man, and that was a tremendous start at 5:18. But then he had trouble late in the course.
Well, he certainly had some problems, you know, and we saw him making little adjustments in the straightaways. Here he's just trying to fine-tune it. You know, that helps. It's certainly so you don't get out of control. But here we see he's gone up and down, so he's below the line, and now he's got to adjust to his speed and the pressure and get in line. You know, Langen, just a nice, clean run all the way around, and that's how you pick up time. And, you know, for Andre Long, that's how you lose time.
Tremendous rivalry between the 26-year-old Long and the veteran Langen, the 3-time world champion, both from Germany. After 3 heats of competition of the World Championships, it's still Germany 2 and Germany 1 neck and neck, and then the Swiss, Reich and Gotzi, right behind them. Pierre Luders of Canada holding on to 6th place. That's where he stood after 2 heats of competition, but he's dropping 1.5 seconds behind the German leader. Look out! This is what happens when you go wrong in bobsleigh, pushing the envelope, unable to load at the start. It can be terrifying, a hazardous sport as the French bail out, losing control at the finish. We're back after this. Bobsleigh Championships. You know, this sport has become technically and athletically more sound at the turn of the century. Victories decided by 100ths of a second. Pilots going on wild rides, driving a fine line between the spectacular and the disastrous.
Wow, just when you think this is one fast but smooth ride, you can see just how dangerous it is.
Well, it's either going to scare you right out of the sport or it'll make you more determined to stay with it.
All right, now the four-man championships here in Altenberg run just like the two-man, but on a separate weekend. 4 heats over 2 days, fastest sled wins. Pierre Lueders came in the bronze medal winner in the four-man competition on the World Cup Tour, but he had a mixture of high expectations and frustrations in Altenberg.
Well, certainly his biggest challenge over the course of the year was consistency amongst his crew, and that wasn't happening well for him. He was changing guys. But here he's got Ben Hindle back on his team, teamed up with twin brother Matt and Ahmed Marshall on the team, so it could be a recipe for success.
Okay, let's look at the four-man highlights from Altenberg.
Heat 1 and the prohibitive favorites, the World Cup champion Switzerland won. Marcel Rohner, a tremendous season on the World Cup circuit, but he'll be fighting the Germans on their home track.
Well, Long had a 5:10 start, and Rohner matches it. We know he's done so well in the starts all year long. A little bit of problem up top. He let that back end get away on him. And here he's got a late transition across. You know, he's so tight, it loads up in the back end of the sled. And
They're over!
That's the kind of thing that happens. You know, you got so much energy in that sled, and when you hit that counter curve, it reverses back.
And picking up speed upside down. What a terrible looking upset for Marcel Rohner, one of the top pilots on the tour this year. The Swiss on the track looking weary and shaken up.
Well, you can only hope that they were able to keep all their heads and shoulders in. It didn't look like it, and boy, that hurts on the neck as well as the shoulder, and the rest of the body gets beaten up as well.
And that was it for them. They would not be able to continue as the conditions deteriorated on this weekend for the four-man competition. Those were the standings after Heat 3. The Germans, the young Lang in first, the veteran and three-time champion Langen in second, the Swiss right behind. Pierre Lueders of Canada won, coming off a tremendous World Cup season, finishing third overall. Ben Hindle back on the crew after suffering a pulled groin and missing the late stages of the World Cup season.
Well, here you have the advantage of having twins, the cadence. You know, look at them, left, right, left. I mean, it's great having the brothers on the side of the sled.
Ben and Matt Hindle with the brakeman Ahmed Marshall, a young crew behind the veteran Pierre Lueders, who had a gold, a bronze, and 2 fourths in the four-man this year. Four-man, not normally his strength, but it's been a dandy season for him.
Well, certainly with Sam Ritz coming in that magical last run and getting a third place, I mean, that was incredible. Here today, they had great starts all the way along, and at this point, they've got the lead, and that's a real plus for them.
Ivo Ferriani doffs his hat to the Canadians, who have the lead temporarily, but the heavy hitters were still to come in Altenberg. 3:43.27, the time for Canada won. But would it stand? The heavy hitters still to come. At the top, Christian Reich. Psyched. Switzerland 2 ready to go, fourth after 3.
Well, you want to hope they can get a really explosive start here. It's a good experienced crew, and he's definitely an experienced pilot. We always thought he was just a two-man pilot, but he certainly demonstrated his strength in the four-man this year.
You have to wonder, though, if Reich at all psychologically shaken up after what happened to his countryman, Marcel Rohner.
Well, years ago it happened with Hans Hildebrand. We certainly thought he was going to be the challenger in the 83 Worlds. First run, he was over in the second curve, so it has happened before, but it's a real unfortunate accident.
But Reich steers his way safely and to the lead after 4 heats, temporarily in front, replacing Lueders. But the Germans, 1 and 2, still to come. This is Christoph Langen of Germany 1. He was second after heat 3.
Fastest starts all competition long. Let's see if he can improve on it. He had a 5:08 in the third heat.
5:10.
Boy, I'll tell you, they are so strong. Look at this, how late he is off that curve, and yet right away, his runners bite in, and the sled, you know, he doesn't lose any time by slinging across.
Stays off the walls and picking up time. A huge lead now for Christoph Langen, 1.34 seconds.
Well, he's going to have to make a huge mistake for Reich to even think of moving up.
Look at that. Leaving Reich in his wake, 1.45 seconds as the home crowd erupts for Christoph Langen of Germany in the lead, 3:40 and change.
Well, it's a great run. It's a really solid crew that he's put together.
And now the 26-year-old Andre Lang. He was the junior champion of the world 1 year ago in the four-man. Now hoping to add the senior four-man championship 1 year later. The last run of the day.
Well, a 5:12 start, he's still right behind Langen there. You know, that 2/100s, it makes a bit of a difference, but his experience here is so extreme, you've got to think that he can keep it together.
It's an all-German battle for gold now. Lang on the course, Langen at the bottom awaiting his final run. A huge crowd here in Germany cheering on Andre Lang, and he's got it. Wow! 65/100ths of a second lead now.
That is just an incredible lead.
At the finish, 0.6 of a second, and the junior is now the senior champion as the German coaches celebrate Andre Lang's incredible finish as he wipes out his fellow countryman Christoph Langen.
Boy, he's definitely demonstrating that heading into Park City for the Olympics, he's going to be the guy you're going to be chasing.
The new fair-haired boy in Germany, Andre Lang, the champion of four-man bobsleigh in the world. And the final standings show just how strong the Germans were on their home track. Lang 62/100ths ahead of Langen, but look at that, Christian Reich a full 2 seconds off the lead. Pierre Luters of Canada won nearly 3 seconds off the top. He was the bronze medalist in the World Cup. It shows you just how powerful Lang and Germany is on its own track in Altenberg, Germany, the four-man world champions. When we come back, the crowd anticipates the final run to decide the two-man champion for gold at the World Bobsleigh Championship. To Altenberg, Germany for the fourth and final heat of the World Championships in two-man bobsleigh. Glorious conditions if you're a spectator, 9 degrees, a little sticky though for the track. It's been melting even though it's artificial. Right now it's Lang in front of Langen of Germany by just 2/100ths. The Swiss right behind them. Pierre Luters of Canada won, holding on to 6th place right now, a full 1.5 seconds behind the German lead sled. The Swiss have turned out in large numbers here on the German course, the former East German training ground, as we look at Russia 1 and Evgeny Popov, 15th overall during the World Cup season. Trouble with his sled, Clark, it's a rattly, noisy, vibrating sled that seems to lose energy throughout the course.
Well, he certainly doesn't have the best equipment, and that's unfortunate because he's a good pilot, building experience. 5:28 start, though, you know, when you lose that much time to the top sleds, I mean, that's one area you can definitely pick it up.
You can see the course has experienced some melting in the sunny spots.
Well, and the other thing you've got is you're going now from light to shadow, and if you're not feeling the sled, if you're not feeling the course, it's going to be definitely difficult to find those pressure points and really steer where you need to steer and let the sled run where it should run.
Popov looked good. He's still in the lead, but a bump there will cost him.
Nice long curves there. You know, those are the nice ones where you can get in and settle and really find those points.
Driving well despite hitting the wall. In the lead right now. 19/100ths of a second up.
Here you see his nice position. You know, he stays nice and low. The brakeman's hidden underneath him. You know, that's just great position in the sled.
The Czech 1 crew giving way to the Russians. Evgeny Popov has the lead temporarily, but he knows that will be hard to hold up with the likes of Langen, and Christian Reich of Switzerland waiting to come.
And here you can see the crewmen moving around to help him there. The ice is so soft and slushy. Even up top, we get a better example. Look at those thumbtack-like spikes that they use for start shoes, how it's digging up the ice. It's so soft. I mean, it really is hard ice to drive on, you'd really like it much, much colder.
And some trouble steering out of that turn.
Well, he certainly had. He was a little late and came off, but look at him making the minor adjustments in the steering. You want to be very careful and very soft when you do that, otherwise the back end gets away on you.
So a good recovery for Evgeny Popov, who temporarily has the lead here after his fourth and final heat of this two-man competition. Driving a sled, though, still fairly rudimentary when you consider the high tech that goes into making these sleds.
Well, it certainly is. Back in the old days, they had steering wheels. Now you see it's ropes and bungees, okay? So you're pulling on the left one, it steers left. Pull on the right one, it steers right. And it's very minor adjustments. Something like Long in here, he just made that little counter adjustment to straighten it out, but that's where the back end gets away out of him, and then he just starts to lose all sorts of time. And that mistake there cost him almost 0.4 of a second.
And don't forget, in the four-man competition, Marcel Rohner, getting ready for his fourth and final run in the two-man, lost control, steering out of a high bank and rolled his sled and put himself out of competition. Here he is trying to salvage his world championships, a fourth and final run now in the two-man competition.
Well, we've always thought him more a four-man pilot, but he's definitely demonstrated throughout the year that he's good at the two. You know, that he and Christian Reich sort of switched around there. Good start, 5:23, and they've got a half a second lead on Popov at this point. Let's hope they can maintain it.
You can see parts of the track that were in the sun earlier have refrozen. The melting part has refrozen.
Well, and certainly the other areas that you're seeing is that shadow sunlight, and it's the glare off the track that bothers you. You know, it just jumps up, bounces off your cowling. Those sleds that have the nice bright paint jobs, that'll be more a problem for them than the darker sleds.
Back end swerving a bit there for Rohner, but he's holding on to a lead now by half a second. Remember, he had a silver and 2 bronze medals and finished third overall on the World Cup circuit in two-man competition.
Well, it certainly is a challenge for them. You know, you're going almost more than 100 kilometers an hour down here at the bottom point, and you've just got to feel these little pressure points and the adjustments. I mean, it is very, very difficult to control these sleds, especially at this speed.
And he has the lead. Rohner moves into first place, pushing back the Russians. A huge lead of 56 100ths, and there's Rohner with a hand up. He'll take that.
Well, certainly he will. I mean, and a half a second lead, it shows the depth of this field, how one sled can be just in front of one, and you've got a half a second of variance.
Out of that turn, trying to regain control, and then he swerved his back end. That cost him some time.
Certainly did, but look how he stays nice and low, so the wind just over the top of the cowling and over his head, nice and streamlined. There, he's just through the finish line there.
So Marcel Rohner of Switzerland 3, the temporary leader after his fourth and final heat. A rough couple of weeks in Altenberg with the crash in the four-man, but he's looking good right now in the two-man. As we go back to the top and look at Latvia 1, Sandis Prūsis was 9th overall after 3 heats of competition.
Well, he had a 5:31 start in the third heat. Let's see what he can do here in the fourth and final heat. Nice clean note, 5:30. He's only got 600th lead on Marcel Rohner at this point. We just see up top again, you know, all the melting, and then of course the refreezing when it gets down to the shady parts. Really difficult ice, and it becomes bumpy ice as well.
Drivers pulling on those rubber-like bungee cord steering ropes. One false move and you're in trouble.
Well, especially at the higher speeds, and you know, the transitions we talk about, how you want to exit these curves and enter the next ones. That makes it difficult, and you really can't make much steering in the straightaway. We see some people making minor adjustments, but without the pressure that you're going to have in the curves, it's very difficult to do that.
Prūsis losing that advantage he had at the top of the course now, dropping back into second place.
Boy, the time he's losing here, you know, you got that 600th lead at the top, now you're down 3,800ths. He's just losing it all over.
No, he will not be a factor. Sandis Prūsis temporarily in second place, but way down the list. The Swiss in front still, but that will not be enough to put him on the podium.
Boy, that's got to be frustrating. You know, you'd at least want to hold your position here. You certainly don't want to lose anything. And again, look at the snow building up there on the braking stretch, just getting worse and worse.
Here's where he had trouble maintaining his steering.
Yeah, now the back end gets away, so he starts to counter steer, but then you get that ping pong effect. And then you've got to know, coming into the next curve, you're going to be late. You've got to...
and the ghost image replay showing that he was about a full length behind Roner through the halfway point of this race.
And he's losing more time there. You can see, you know, every couple of feet he's dropping back.
The German still to come as Marcel Roner stands on the leader's platform at the bottom of this course. The Swiss turning out in big numbers here in Altenberg, Germany. But can anyone, including Pierre Luners, reel in the Germans? We'll see when we come back. Altenberg, Germany, standing room only here. The German crowd 6 to 10 deep, craning, waiting for their favorites, Long and Longen. But right now it's Italy 2 and Fabrizio Tossini, who was in 6th place after the third run. He was 5th overall on the World Cup Tour this year. He is a threat for a medal. Puts his visor down, and they're off.
Well, the start's going to be the big thing. They had a 5:36 in the third heat. Let's see if he can improve on that for this fourth heat.
No.
That's the problem. You get into these big competitions and you want to make sure each consecutive run you start to go faster and faster. And the start area is the one place that you can really make improvements.
Look at the ice conditions. Wet on one side, dry on the other. Very mild day, 9 degrees, and very sunny as it continues to bake down on this artificial ice course.
Well, the problem will be where it freezes up. You know, you've got that melting ice and then it freezes up, and that's going to cause bumps. You want to hope that doesn't happen in those transition points where you move from the straightaways into the curve or exiting the curves.
Look at this. Tossini now has moved into the lead on Marcel Roner.
Well, this is good. Let's hope he can hold that position down here in the bottom part.
Driving well and picking up 14 100ths now as he moves to the finish. Roner looking on. The final few seconds. Tossini has the lead, 17 100ths of a second ahead of Marcel Roner. The Italian coaching staff encouraged by that smooth drive of Fabrizio Tossini of Italy, temporarily in the lead, moving Roner of Switzerland into second place.
Well, there's no doubt he's got a top 10 finish. They should be really pleased with that because he is a young pilot and it's a very tough circuit that we've got here.
Look how he got control on that straight after bouncing off the wall.
Certainly
Just
it
brushing.
is. But you look at the drive lines, you know, it's so soft down here, he's making his own fresh path.
At the halfway point, he was a full length behind Roner, and then in the bottom half of this course, he really drove a fine line.
Yeah, certainly he's starting to bring him in here. Each sort of step he's making a nice straight line while Roner is going up and down. Less distance to cover, and therefore you're going to get more time down at the bottom.
Finding a shorter distance to the goal line, so to speak, Italy 2's Fabrizio Tossini has taken the lead in this fourth and final heat of the two-man competition. Todd Hayes of USA 1 is off and running, was 7th after the third heat.
Well, this is a good experienced crew. Certainly with Garrett Hines on brakes, they're a powerful crew. They've just got to work on that high-end speed. That's what they really need, you know, to make sure that once they've loaded, they still accelerate the sled.
Look at the course, though. It continues to melt here in the late stages of the fourth and final heat.
Well, you start to see the sides of the walls that are exposed directly to that sunlight, and that's what melts down, and then it gets in the course and starts to flush it down.
Hayes getting to know this Altenberg track, driving better as he goes. Look at that, he's got the lead. 54 100ths of a second now over the Italy 2 crew.
He just has to make sure he stays nice and low on the sled, keeps feeling the ice. You know, the worst thing is they gets down to lower part and it speeds up, they start to sit forward and really pull on the ropes. They don't want to do that. They want to stay nice and relaxed and just let the sled move with the ice.
Lots of striations now in that rough-looking ice at the finish line. The Italians look on and they watch as their lead evaporates. What a great fourth run by Todd Hayes of the United States. 62 100ths of a second now in front of Fabrizio Tossini of Italy 2.
Boy, it's just really something to see that these sleds, you know, instead of being a couple of hundredths ahead, it's half a second, you know, 3/4 of a second. That's amazing time differences.
Smooth entry at the start. A time of 5.20 seconds for the Americans, their best start in 4 heats and the third best overall.
Well, here we see the lead that he's got over the Italians as they start to move along. He's got a nice line. You know, we talk about how the sled doesn't move up or down. Of course, there's Fabrizio's sled going up and down, which causes, you know, he's covering more ice, and therefore he's going to lose time and speed.
Todd Hayes, the leader right now, going over the roadmap, so to speak, revisiting his best drive of the World Championships. At the top, Pierre Lueders of Canada won, 6th after 3 heats. But what state are those runners in after they were scoured in a braking mishap at the end of the run? The runners are the most precious, most sophisticated part of a driver's equipment. They can cost upwards to tens of thousands of dollars. So much technical development goes into making them so precise. And the alloy mixture is very important.
Well, certainly it is, and you know, not only from one team to the next, but also from one country to the next. You've got to make sure that you've got the equipment that's going to allow you to get to the podium.
And you've got to get the FIBT stamp of approval. This is one area where there has been cheating in the past, where some teams have tried to get an advantage over others by using faster, shinier, slipperier runners. Ahmed Marshall and Pierre Lueders are off for their fourth and final heat here at the World Championship 4-man competition.
Well, they had a 5:31 start in the 30, 5:29, and they've got a 20 hundredths lead over Todd Hayes at this point. He's got to make sure at least to maintain it, if not improve on it, if he hopes to advance his position.
So Todd Hayes has set the standard for Pierre Lueders, and now he must drive his way through this Altenberg track and try to reach the top 3 if he wants to get on the podium.
And right away he's losing time. You know, you've got to hope that between runs Pierre was able to recoup and really get himself focused again after that mishap at the bottom. But he's starting to make all kinds of mistakes, and now only 200ths of a lead.
And those runners, how are they running right now? We know that they were just roughed up after they hit the asphalt at the end of the 3rd heat. And that was because of a braking error by Ahmed Marshall.
And certainly, you know, at this point, Pierre's got to stay focused, let the sled run, and really make sure he's right in each curve. You know, he's not 2 curves ahead or 1 behind, shaking his head.
No, he will not catch Todd Hayes of the USA. The Americans, with a big victory today over Pierre Lueders, as Ivo Ferriani accepts the fate of Canada 1.
Well, certainly it's frustrating. I mean, even look at the braking stretch. It's not only all slushy, but it's all dirty as well. I mean, you've lost your best brakeman. Unfortunately, Ahmed couldn't give him the starts that he needed, and, you know, with the mishap with the runners, that just cost him dearly.
Lueders trying to gain control down that straight, bumping, giving up time there, losing energy.
And especially, you know, only 800ths difference, you know, that's just little mistakes, and it's a few of them. Here you see another one. He's missed the pressure point. The sled has risen up and down and then through the flat spot. You've got to make sure, like Todd is demonstrating, a nice line all the way around.
Gunther Huber of Italy 1, trying to psych himself into a big start. Gold medalist along with Lueders. They finished in a dead tie in Nagano, 1998 for the 2-man. This is for the World Championship.
Well, it's a much different course here. And for sure, for Gunther, he's got to relax. It's been a difficult season for him. He's just driving extremely well on this course by letting the sled move up and down. He's very relaxed. He's able to sit and really feel the course. That's a big help.
2100s now in the lead over Todd Hayes of USA 1. And Huber knows now he has a very good chance of getting on the podium.
The way he just made that nice transition there, you know, a nice clean straightaway where he's not bumping the sides or running along them where he would lose speed. The back end's not getting away on him. A little tap there, still holding it nice and steady, and he's just picking up time here.
Yes, 22 100s now up on Todd Hayes. The Americans now seemingly resigned to losing their lead to Italy 1's Gunther Huber, and they do. Huber up by 23 100ths of a second, but will that be enough to stand with the Germans and Christian Reich of Switzerland still to come?
Well, it's hard to say how Gunther feels about this. You know, last year he was able to put himself on the podium. Now this year he's got to settle for maybe a podium finish, or maybe the Germans will hold, and same with the Swiss, but good for him to come back off such a poor start.
Yes, he got better as he went along. There's the ghost image showing how he trailed Todd Hayes, went high, wavered on that turn, but then came back on the bottom half of this course to take the lead, passing Todd Hayes of USA 1 and in front temporarily. The co-Olympic champion from Nagano is in front with a time of 3:50.28. But will that hold up? Some big names still to come as we look at the standings right now. So far, Huber in front, Todd Hayes of the USA in second, and Pierre Luters of Canada right now in the bronze medal position. But the big names from Germany and Switzerland still to come when we come back to Altenberg, Germany. Back in Altenberg, Germany, the former proving ground of some great East German bobsledders, the likes of Wolfgang Hoppe, who won so many East German titles here en route to world and Olympic glory in bobsleigh. He's a coach now. The Germans awaiting the two runs first from Switzerland. Swiss 2, Reto Gacci, was 4th overall after the 3rd heat. His last chance to get on the podium.
He's got to make sure he got a nice explosive start. You know, it's so flat at the top. We talk about how important it is. Nice clean load.
He threw out of the ruts.
Oh, right away a mistake, you know, and that's how it happens. You know, the ice softens up, so you get in, you almost take hold of your ropes, or maybe you do, and all of a sudden it takes off on you.
Gacci seems to have regained control of his sled, and right now he's taken the lead. 0.5 of a second now.
Well, now he's got to stay focused. He's got to let the sled run where it can. Oh, wow. And that's one of those types of mistakes, again, that we talk about. You know, the whole sled back end goes and then it kicks back again.
Bumped again. Still in the lead over Huber, 38/100.
But he's losing time, and again, this is the type that can happen. A big competition, the track conditions change. You hope he's got the right set of runners now.
He's really not racing against Huber. He's racing against Reich and the two Germans still to come. He's got the lead, 31/100 of a second as he spins down the brake area, but he'll be wincing at what might have been, I think, with those untimely bounces.
Well, certainly that hurt him. You know, you've got to, as you say, he's not only got to beat the sleds that have come down before him, but he's also got to set the standard for the other sleds still to come, and he really hurt his chances there.
That's how close he was, neck and neck with Huber on that turn midway through the track.
Here's that nice straight line, you know, and Huber may be pulling away,
yes,
which just demonstrates that Huber had a better time, but in total time, you know, Gacci was able to maintain that lead, and
look,
Huber's just pulling away.
Look what he lost on that turn in the slingshot effect. Right now, Reto Gacci of Switzerland is in the lead, but lost all kinds of time coming out of that turn. Christian Reich, a huge throng here to cheer him on. He was in 3rd place after 3 heats. Reich visualizing the podium. He has to beat Gacci and then set down a time to beat for Langen and Lang of Germany still to come.
And here you see what the crew is doing is when they get the green light to go, then they put the sled in the start grooves so it doesn't melt down the ice even more than it already is.
A huge factor today in this 9-degree sunny weather condition.
You see him using that yellow shield to protect from the glare that coming off the sled and the curves.
5:25, the 4th best start time, and right away Christian Reich has the lead, staying off the walls onto that first turn.
Well, there you go. Nice up top, you know. Again, we talk about how important it is to stay relaxed and that this course really doesn't have a rhythm. You've got to make sure you stay focused and you're able to take each corner as it comes and make those minor adjustments that have happened even since the previous run because of that ice melting down.
You're looking at the World Cup champion this year in the two-man competition, Christian Reich of Switzerland 1, trying to set a time that can't be beaten. He's in the lead right now by 0.5 of a second over his compatriot Reto Gacci of Switzerland 2.
One of the things he's able to do, you know, the ice is soft enough that he's able to make some driving corrections in the straightaways because it's soft enough to take grip.
Yes, 0.5 second in front of Reto Gacci. The Swiss are confident as you look at the big triceps on the lead driver right now, Christian Reich of Switzerland 1. A good drive. Now all he can do is watch and wait. The Germans still to come.
Well, here you see the advantage of having the same type of coach. You should have the same drive line, but now you've got Reich in the lead, and look at Gacci's line, how he's losing time here, up and down. He's got to get that pressure point, steer through there, and let it run in the flat spot. In other words, not steer, and that cost him some time, and now you've got Reich right in the top of the field here.
And at the start, Christoph Langen, one of the most decorated German bobsleigh champions. He's won 3 world championships. It began back in '93, then to '95 in Winterberg, and this was the scene in '96 on the Calgary Olympic track where he beat Pierre Lueders for his 3rd title. A great tradition in this German bobsleigh program, and now it's up to Langen in his final run if he wants to make it a 4th world championship. He's in 2nd place after 3 heats, but just 2 100ths off the time set by fellow countryman Andre Long, the 26-year-old world junior champion from last year. Now you can see the fast twitch muscle fibers revving up as Langen and Zimmerman make their final push.
Well, they're so explosive at the start. I mean, this is the key to bobsledding. You've got to have that start.
5:14, the best start overall, and already a 5/10 of a lead.
And the big bonus for him is, other than that little mistake, was he's 300s faster at the start than he was in the 3rd heat, and that's important because he gained so much time on Long's time of yesterday in that 3rd heat that if he can do the same in the 4th, there's no doubt it'll be very difficult for Long to maintain the lead.
Well, Andre Lang threw down the gauntlet after the 2nd heat, saying, I've got the lead and I'll be chased now, and this is the man in pursuit. Christoph Langen, 3 world championships and an Olympic gold behind him as he makes his final drive here in Altenberg, Germany.
Well, he's very clean in the straightaways. Little tap there, but at least he doesn't take the front end in and then the back end.
Really flying now, and look at his lead opening up to 75 100ths on Christian Reich, who can only smile and wave watching the German Christoph Langen demolish his time. 81 100ths of a second ahead of the Swiss. And that will be a hard act to follow for Andre Lang.
Well, it certainly will. I mean, he is just an incredible pilot. So relaxed here the 2nd day he comes out, focused, knows what to do, and he certainly does it here.
Marcus Zimmerman and Christoph Langen, winded it seemed after a tremendous flight.
Well, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, certainly your energy levels are going to be up, but what a great start. Look at the sink that they're in with their feet, you know, pushing all in the same step. That's really important to put the momentum right into the sled.
Look at Langen thrusting as he leaps into the sled. The best start overall and a fine drive for the German champion. At the imaging point on this course, you can see he's moved a full sled length ahead of Christian Reich and is much more steady.
Well, that's what experience gives you. He's able to just let the sled come around, hold it in the pressure point, let it run in the flats, and then he's able to let it run out nice and clean.
There's the leader, Christoph Langen. 3 minutes, 48.66 seconds, the time to beat. He was 2 100ths behind this man, a confident-looking Andre Lang, only 26 years of age. His lead, though, has been leaking after 2 heats. He was up 49 100ths after 2 heats. That cut to 2 100ths after 3. He has the last drive of the day.
Well, he had a 5:18 start in the 3rd heat. That was good. It was 1 100th slower than Langen's start from that 3rd heat, but now that Langen put down a 5:14, let's see how Lang can compare to that.
They waste no time. They get the green light and they're off and running. Andre Lang, Germany 2. Chasing Germany 1's Christoph Langen. No! The 2nd fastest start behind Langen. Will that be a factor?
Well, a 5:20, and he's 400ths behind already. That's so difficult for him to make up. Obviously, the pressure of this type of race has gotten to him, and he's fallen off the pace.
Andre Lang losing his lead, a lead he built over 3 heats in the first 50 meters of this final heat.
Now we're watching him in that lower part, you know, the transitions, one curve to the next.
Steady, just glancing off the wall, but losing more time. He's down 11 100ths now to Langen.
Boy, it just shows what a great run Langen had in the 3rd and 4th heat. Look at him, though. You know, he's really, there's an opportunity here for him to reel him back if he can just stay steady.
Next interval, yes, he's coming back. 7 100ths now. Andre Lang trying not to squeeze those steering ropes, trying to stay soft and calm. No! He will not get the veteran as Langen celebrates his 4th World Championship in 2-man competition. What a comeback for Germany 1.
Boy, I never would have thought that young Lang would have such a lead after the 1st day, almost half a second, and it certainly was a challenge for Langen to come back, and boy, he did it.
Here at the halfway point, look at the ghost imaging. You can see Langen in the red sled just ahead of Andre Long, gaining a little bit here coming out of the turn, trying to track down his countryman. But that would be too tough. The veteran Langen setting a standard that could not be matched. He is the champion for the fourth time in the two-man competition, 7/100ths of a second ahead of Andre Long. Christian Reich will win the bronze for Switzerland, 81/100ths off the pace, but Pierre Lueders well back, nearly 2 seconds off the championship in 7th place. But what a win and what a comeback.
The world title was so far away yesterday, and we were sitting together yesterday in the evening. We were thinking, what can we do? But today, maybe we had good luck with the circumstances, we had better eyes, and so we could turn it. And I think Christopher Lang is very happy.
And so are the German fans here in Altenberg as Germany claims the world championship in a stirring duel between two teammates. When we come back, the medals are presented. The celebrations continue in Altenberg as the Germans are decorated with their gold medals here in the World Championship two-man competition. A 4th world title for this man, Christoph Langen of Germany. What a tremendous rally by him over the Swiss, but a rough day for Canada.
Well, that pretty much summed up the whole weekend. You know, we had a good race going. We were consistently fighting with Huber for 6th and possibly 5th. And then the third run, when you don't put the brakes on and you fly into the media area and you destroy your sled, my runners are completely destroyed. I'll have to make a new set this summer because those were my Olympic runners that we won the gold with, and basically they're ruined. So, I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. And 7th place is really a good kick in the pants. And, you know, we got it today.
What did you do in the break before the 4th run? Did you use new runners?
No, you're not allowed to change your runners. We had to take our runners all the way down to 60 grit. I mean, there was absolutely holes and gouges that looked like somebody drove across the concrete. And it's just so disappointing because all my success is with those runners, and you know, they're already on the minimum limits of being legal anyway. So now you know, I can basically just cut them in half and mount them on a wall.
Well, Pierre Lueders doesn't pull his punches, venting his frustration not just at his result in Altenberg, but at his own teammate, Ahmed Marshall.
Well, we saw some other teams make the same type of mistake, but for Pierre, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. These runners he keeps encased all year long, and he brings them out just for the big race. This was the race, and now they're trashed. I mean, it is really heartbreaking.
It's thousands of dollars in runners down the drain. How about the world champion, Christoph Langen, his decision to leave the World Cup circuit paying off as he wins his 4th title?
Well, absolutely. He did all the right things. I mean, that 2 weeks he had to prepare here, to rest, obviously to get focused mentally, and then to go through his equipment. I mean, he had all the right tools here to win, and he did.
What do you think happened to his compatriot, Andre Long? He had a 0.6 of a second or more lead after the day 1.
Well, there's that whole experience thing, and he went to bed with a result in his head. I'm sure he came out on day 2 thinking, you know what, just do what I did yesterday, just relax a bit, big lead, and Long just jumped on him. You know, he obviously went to bed saying, I got to make some changes, and he made those changes, and he won.
And as frustrated as Pierre Lueders was after Altenberg, he was counting his blessings a short time later when he traveled to Lake Placid, New York for the Goodwill Games. It was there he was involved in a spectacular crash. This was the scene in the 3rd heat of the two-man competition.
Well, here you see him just laying it up on the curve. He should be pulling it off, and instead he just lets it run out, and over he goes. This is the most dangerous type of crash. Your neck's out there. I mean, a lot of injuries, and you're out there exposed. You got the weight of the sled crashing and banging. I mean, he's very, very fortunate.
Dragging for more than 100 meters down that course, his head exposed, as you mentioned. But miraculously, he was taken to hospital for x-rays, suffering just a mild concussion, some burns and cuts, and remarkably was in good enough shape to travel to Calgary earlier this week for the Canadian Championships.
Racing at night at Canada Olympic Park, the Olympic track in the foothills. Lueders wearing a new helmet, perhaps because his old one was destroyed in that crash at Lake Placid. Working with Ahmed Marshall, one of 10 sleds in this competition. Best 2 runs, combined time wins it, and they would be the champions. In 2nd place, Tom Samuel. 3rd, Brian Zarski. And in the women's competition, Christine Fraser topped the field of 6 sleds to capture that title for 2000. Marshall and Lueders making up, and Lueders winning his 3rd title in Canada.
Good job, yeah. Congratulations should go to the guys behind me for sure. Tom Samuels, Brian Zarski, and Jason Corrales is going to be a heck of a little driver when he gets his some experience under his belt. But it's good. It's good to see that our program is getting stronger, and you know, hopefully we'll continue that next year.
You know, this was my first year. I was a rookie, and all of a sudden I'm pushing pure looters, you know, and
you didn't wreck the sled this
didn't
time.
wreck a sled. Didn't run into any camera crews. You guys are all safe, eh? And you know, first year, you know, he gave me a chance, and you know, not too many people are willing to give people a chance, but you know, Pierre just has that wisdom and gave me a chance, and I stepped up to the plate, and hopefully I did well. It wasn't too bad a season.
So another Canadian championship for Pierre Lueders to round out the bobsleigh season, and what looked like an ill-fated season at the beginning with the injury to Ken LeBlanc turned out to be a terrific bronze medal finish in the World Cup for Pierre Lueders and a top 10 placement overall at the World Championships. How would you assess Ivo Ferriani's first year as the national team coach?
Well, I think he did extremely well, especially under all the challenges with equipment, personnel, the lack of depth, you know, a lot of those type of things that you think are there in place when you join the program, and then you find out they're not. But the team is extremely excited, and so is Ivo for next year. He's going to take more control of the team, you know, from the equipment, the recruitment, development, and a lot of the on-ice program, and he's going to be able to put this team in shape so that next year they're a challenge, both men and women, to every country.
And we've got more winter adventure